All right. Welcome, everybody. It is that time again. It's been 90 days, if you can believe it. So if you are here for AI office hours, we have got a really powerful presentation for you, a real treat, as it were. As folks are filing in, I just want to make sure that you can hear the sound of my voice. So if you wouldn't mind popping open the chat and dropping in there, I want you to look out your window right now and I want you to type the dominant color that you're seeing. So if I was going to fill that out, it would be white for certain. Blue. Oh, okay. Someone's on a plane. Blue. Good. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, you're saying, I think they're saying what's on
Wait,
the, I think what they mean is the blue on the screen.
Pete,
I meant looking out the window.
Peter's got orange going on in his environment. I think he might
There
be in
we
the middle
go.
of a uh, calamity.
Well, I think we can get started here. We've got a pretty tight agenda, and we've only got an hour, so let's get into it. My name's Jason Claus. I'm the director of marketing here at Endsight, and I get to be the our host for the day. And there's some names that I don't recognize. For those names, we are so glad. Well, we're glad everybody's here, but if we don't know you, we're really glad you're here too. A little bit about Endsight. Our purpose is to help others thrive, and we have four core values that serve that purpose. We do computer system support, among other things, helping companies with things like help desk, integration, data connectivity, cybersecurity. Also, we're helping a lot of our clients with AI. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We've got a great agenda for us. I'm doing the introduction right now. Mike Chapit's going to join us to do our AI reality check. Brian Torrado is going to share a real example that we have from Endsight with us. Eugene and Michelle are going to talk to us about how we can really start getting into AI. Previous webinars on AI office hours, we've had a path to follow. I think we've got a revised path based off of things we've been learning, and then we'll have a Q&A section for you. To formally introduce folks, we want to start with the Wizard of Brez. Michelle leads our data data analytics group. She's our official title is development manager, and most of you already know her. She's joined by Eugene Matisco on his team. He's our Power Platform development specialist and our one of our AI experts. Brian Torrado is our newly named director of AI automation, and he's going to be sharing our real world example with you today. And Mike Chapit said he wanted to come along because he's got a lot of insight and sort of a perspective that we thought everybody would find pretty valuable and noticeable. You can see that the Stephen Hicks's blank screen up there. Stephen Hicks knew we were doing a webinar and said, "There's absolutely no way you're going to do a webinar without me joining." So welcome, Stephen. We're glad you're here.
Of course, we have Stephen. Of course, there goes the neighborhood.
Water. But honestly, you really can't talk about this stuff without having Stephen around to interject for questions or things like that. So, Stephen, thank you for making time for us.
100%.
All right. With that, we're going to get into the program for today. Chapit, you've been talking to us organizationally about this notion of AI and how it relates to tractors and farms, and that's probably the best place for us to start off. Why don't you share this with everybody that's joining us today?
Well, thank you, Jason. Welcome, everybody. Thanks to anybody who's attending this remotely, or I mean, not remotely, but post live. I was trying to think about an analogy that I could use to place AI inside of a context. Technology disruption of production is kind of a fact of human existence, historically back as far as time, essentially. But I thought the tractor was a particularly interesting analogy, and I'll share why. So in 1892, the Frolic tractor was invented, and at that time, tractors were run on horses. So, you were having horses pulling tills and plowing the fields, etc. And a single tractor could replace 10 horses. And what's interesting is that with the invention of the tractor, by 8 years later, we went from about half of the workers working in farms to about 5%. By the way, we were, before even the tractor, we were at one point in time, something like 80 to 90% of people were working in agriculture. So we went down to 5%. And one of the things about that what's happened is food production exploded, and we were able to move on to lots of other interesting pursuits as humankind. And so I think this is like a true technological earthquake. It's something very disruptive.
Right. And
I thought it would be fun to just take a look at what those old tractors looked like. So we got an image of one and put it on the screen. So
this is what an earthquake looked like 100 years ago, a technological earthquake.
And one thing to kind of keep in mind is that our current version of a large language model will look something antiquated like that in only a short number of years from now. So one of the things that we talk about is this is the worst AI is ever going to get, and it's still pretty amazing. So let's talk about tools. The tractor doesn't plow a field by itself. Like any other technological tool, it needs an operator. It also needs a bunch of other things, which is why I think it is an interesting analogy to AI. So it needs fuel. So you've got to have a whole other industry kind of refining fuel in order for a tractor to work. More than anything, it needs an operator, someone that knows how to use that tractor. It also needs attachments, things like a plow, things like a till, and it needs tires. And of course, it needs mechanics and an infrastructure to repair it. So that's kind of what we're kind of going to be talking about today. Is what is the infrastructure requirement, the supply chain, so to speak, of AI? And there's two kind of competing narratives right now that are trying to win and occupy the minds of society. So there's the doom and gloom side of it, which is something like AI is going to take all the jobs, and then without any humans working, nobody will have any money. And because nobody will have any money, nobody will buy anything. The economy collapses, and essentially the machines start attacking the humans, and we all die. It's a pretty bad vision, and one that I reject on its surface. I think that's would be very difficult to manifest, but nobody wants to manifest that vision. I think the much more practical narrative is to think about AI just like any other technological tool. It's a hammer, it's a saw, it's a car, it's a bicycle, it's a tractor. We can use whatever analogy we want, but it's a tool that allows a human to go faster than they could on their own. It accelerates human capability. I know for me, I do a lot of writing, and AI makes my research so much better. It's like having an instant, incredibly brilliant human being right at my shoulder, and allows me to create at a much, much faster rate. Now, on the other hand, when used poorly, when I don't know what I'm doing, it can be incredibly frustrating. It can lead to a worse product than me working alone. So one of the things we'll be talking about is what's the difference between driving that bike or that car or that tractor well, and just kind of trying to figure it out on the fly. Okay, one other thing I wanted to think about. I love this example because it's just maybe one of the most obvious examples. So broadband internet hit the scene in the kind of the early 2000s, late 90s, depending on how advanced you were. And there was at that time, Blockbuster had a market cap of something like $500 million or something like that. Ultimately, they played the disruption incredibly poorly, and they evaporated the entirety of that market capital. It went completely under. On the other hand, in the same exact business, which was the entertainment distribution business, Netflix became one of the top 10 largest companies in the entire planet. And they were basically in the same spot. If you think about it objectively, Blockbuster was in a much better position to capture that value than Netflix was, but they played the disruption improperly. So I like to think of a technology disruption not as a threat or an opportunity, but as both packaged in the same coin. And it depends on what we do and how we play it that manifests whether or not we become a winner or a loser. And one of my favorite thought leaders, Jim Collins, wrote about this. He called it return on luck, or ROL. And he studied a bunch of companies that experienced the same luck event that could be objectively defined as good or bad. And what he found was that many companies took bad luck events and made a lot of money with them and did really, really well. And many companies took good luck events and did terribly with them because they just played them improperly. And so I think with AI, we need to not think about it as good or bad. We need to think about it as it is something, and what we do with it, how we interact with it is gonna make whether or not we're the Blockbuster or the Netflix out of this. One other thing that I learned pretty early in my career was this thing on the left here called the Gartner hype cycle. And I've got to watch this now play out across everything ranging from email platforms, broadband internet, the database, SaaS platforms, telephone, telephony products, broadband internet itself, networking gear, firewall, security, and now we're seeing it play out in AI. And it is super predictable. And when I first started using ChatGPT, thinking, oh my gosh, this thing is really, really cool, I already knew that all the haters were going to come in some period of time, and I could already see the articles, because what we knew was going to happen was there's going to be this trough of disillusionment. It's basically a guarantee. And the point I really want to make on this slide is that the trough of disillusionment has nothing to do with the technology. It has to do with the gap between the expectation people have with the technology and its current limitations, which is a gap that can be bridged with expertise and understanding the technology, where it works, where it doesn't, and implementing it appropriately. And one of the things that we hope to do at Endsight is help our customers avoid that trough, not have the improper expectations of what this technology can do for them. They have the appropriate expectations of what it can do for them, and then show them and teach them and guide them such that they can use that for what it is to accelerate their goals and objectives in their business. Okay, but humans like very, very simple tools. They like things that just work. Unfortunately, whenever you introduce new technology, it requires high fidelity thinking, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. They want to ask ChatGPT a question and have it answer the question perfectly, just as if it were perfectly dialed in. And if it doesn't, they want to throw up their hands and be like, "This stinks." As opposed to being like, why isn't this doing what it's supposed to do? I thought it was supposed to do this, and understanding that there are many different models. The models have something called a context window. Maybe you ran out of your context window. Maybe you shouldn't be using one model. You should be using another. Maybe you should be using a project instead of a chat. Maybe you need to upload documents. There's a training and expertise. And you know this if you've ever been stuck on the side of the road with your car, and all of a sudden it transforms from a car to a pit of snakes, and you're trying to figure out how to troubleshoot something you don't really know, and you need what? A mechanic. And you need an infrastructure, you need a tow truck. And what we're trying to do is essentially make sure that that people know how to drive their cars, and that the failure is not one of user error. And what makes matters worse is that the industry is investing like literally billions, if not, I think it's trillions of dollars into AI right now, which means that it's changing so rapidly that keeping abreast of what it can do and what it can't do, like you might think you know what it can't do, but tomorrow it can. And now you have to reconsider all the things you've already written off your list. And so that's why we think it's so important to align with our appropriate guide. And we'll be talking more about that as the presentation moves on.
All right.
Okay.
Now we've got some examples here for, and Brian, you're going to come in here, yeah?
Jay, if I may, I just want to.
Oh, sorry, pal.
I just want to offer for the group some context before Brian goes on to his presentation. So one, if you know Brian, then he needs no introduction. But if you don't, he is an incredible human being. He is a technologist through and through. He's software development by formal education. He's been in technology all of his life. It's going on 30 years. He loves it truly. When AI came out, he was very interested in it and started studying and learning it. He was already a super important manager and executive at Endsight. But we saw this at Endsight. We saw this particular technology as so transformative that we knew that we were going to have somebody like Brian basically hand off of his responsibilities at Endsight and take on this problem with a full-time focus. And so what we've done is we created the position called the director of AI, which Brian runs, and he has been responsible for rolling it out in phases. He's helped train our team on how to appropriately use the LLM, and then he's also done some really interesting work on building agentic workflow. This is where we integrate several tools, and what he's going to present on right now is some of the real wins that we've had at Endsight. And so with that, Brian, I will hand it over to you to show what you got.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Um, Maybe before I get started, Mike talked about tomorrow, this technology being even more exciting than it is today. For those that didn't see the announcement, OpenAI released a new model. So tomorrow is today for us. And I'm excited to get in there and start playing with it because the benchmarks just look incredible, like they always do. And all of us are winners in this kind of race because we have Google, we have OpenAI, we have Anthropic, we have Microsoft in the mix, and they're all pushing each other to give us more intelligence for the same price. So, all right, here we go. We already talked about the tractor and that massive shift on how work gets done. So one of the questions I often hear isn't what is AI, but where do I point it? What can I do with it? So if you look at your business, you don't need to look for the magical opportunities. You just need to look for where you have loops. For us, we looked at our own operations and asked, where are we burning highly intelligent human brain power on things that are following a set of rules? And before I show you those examples, I did want to say one quick thing about safety, because I know it's on everybody's mind. When we use AI in our workflows, we are using Microsoft's Azure AI service inside our own Azure tenant. Your data stays inside that environment under the same security and compliance controls as the rest of the systems with us. So Azure doesn't use your prompts or outputs to train public models. It does not share any data, and the models themselves do not remember. They're stateless. So what you're about to see is not us throwing ticket information into some wild public AI. It's us using a tightly controlled tool within Azure to help our managers spot exceptions faster and focus their time where their judgment really matters. With that foundation in place, we have 4 specific areas that we initially focused on. So let's start with the front side of the service ticket, one of my favorite things. And for context for everyone, you might wonder, how many service tickets do we get? Well, we get about 4,000 service tickets a month, and that's just on our support side. So 4,000 tickets. So if we're able to save just a few seconds on each ticket, that can add up to real savings. So we set our focus on what happens when the data enters our ticketing system. We realized that we were asking our engineers to be data entry clerks. We wanted them to write perfect invoice-ready titles and select complex categorization codes for our analytics. But when an engineer, as you all know, is in the middle of fixing a server down, they want to prioritize that. They want to fix what's broken and help you all. They don't want to do the paperwork. So sometimes they would do a best guess on the categorization or leave less than ideal titles that were more vague and didn't encompass the scope of the ticket. This created a little bit of chaos in our data that hurt our ability to report on trends for our customers. So how did we tackle this? We built and deployed an AI agent that acts as a translator. It reads the ticket and automatically writes a clean professional title for the invoice following our set of rules, standardized every time. It analyzes the work performed and automatically categorizes the type, subtype, and item so that our analytics are more accurate. This ensures our ability to search and find those relevant tickets and improves our accuracy in a lot of different aspects, ranging from strategic reports, amongst other things, and provides a clearer invoice title so that flows through, you can understand what we were working on. And one of the really interesting things is our engineers no longer have to spend that time on that portion of data entry. These two small automations with AI, we're projecting based on kind of how many tickets are coming in and the time saved, that we're going to save roughly 4.3 million seconds. So of course, that goes to 1,200 hours per year, but it sounded more interesting to say it in seconds. All right, I'm ready for the next slide. So at Endsight, we pride ourselves on providing value. And something that's deeply important to us is billing accuracy. We don't want you to see an invoice that doesn't make sense. And do we get it right every time? No, we don't. But we try really, really hard. That quality comes at a heavy price. Our response center managers were manually reviewing nearly 4,000 tickets every single month. They were checking titles, the spelling, the analytic metadata we talked about, agreement mappings, and work types. Doing this was taking well over about 160 hours a month. So that's nearly a full-time FTE manager spending almost the whole month just virtually stamping papers. The risk wasn't just the cost, though. As you can imagine, there's a lot of fatigue that comes in there too, decision fatigue. People get tired. When you check your 500th ticket for the week, you start to miss things, and we needed a better way to guarantee quality without burning out our leaders. So we built a workflow that uses orchestration and AI to support our managers. Now an intelligent assistant runs a first pass on every single ticket against our strict billing and quality rules. It checks the agreement, the grammar, the metadata, and whether the time entry looks reasonable. When everything is in line with our standards, it records the ticket as passing those checks so that the manager can focus on spot checks instead of reading every single one. When something looks off, the AI writes a specific note explaining exactly why and surfaces that ticket so a manager can review. So here's the outcome. We reduced the manual stamping effort by about 85%. The important part is not that AI is doing the invoicing for them, and still every invoice gets human oversight as well. The win is that our managers are no longer buried in this repetitive checklist work. They can focus their time, and this is the fun part of their job, on coaching engineers, on improving service strategy, and looking closely at those exceptions that are surfaced for them through these workflows. This automation with AI, it's projected to save roughly 1,600 hours per year, and at the same time increases accuracy and allows us to look not only at those tickets that would generate an invoice, but across all of the tickets, and helps our managers reclaim that time to focus on coaching. So we automated the screening so we could elevate the human review and not remove it. Finally, I wanted to talk about the safety net. So we all know the standard feedback loop that we have, the smiley face survey at the end of a ticket. It's a great tool, but it has a flaw. It requires the customer to actually take action. Sometimes when a customer is annoyed or just over it, they don't want to click the face that represents their experience. They just delete the email and move on. And that silence is, of course, dangerous. So we built a sentiment analysis engine that reads every single ticket interaction, including the communication and engineer notes. Just like I mentioned earlier, all of this analysis happens within our secured Microsoft Azure environment. We're not sending your tickets to public AI. It is the same tightly controlled tool set under the same security and compliance controls. This time, it's pointed at experience signals instead of invoicing data. The moment a ticket closes, the AI reads the entire context of the ticket, regardless of whether the customer filled out a survey or not, and the engine looks for residue of friction. So sarcasm, passive aggressiveness, or repeated back and forth. It also highlights good things, you know. Sometimes people say, thank you, I really appreciate this. And it looks for those things because those are worthwhile highlighting for our team. The wins really drive them. It inspires them as well. So on the other side, the sarcasm, the passive aggressiveness, the repeated back and forth, it alerts us to people that might be silently suffering. The customer who didn't complain, but they definitely didn't get the experience that we wanted them to have. So we don't want to just transactionally service a customer. We want to care for that overall experience. It's actually really important and foundational to us at Endsight. And this visibility allows us to help surface the appropriate tickets for manager review. So with these examples, I consider this kind of our own run state. Eugene's going to talk a little bit more about crawl, walk, run. This is some of our run state. They show you what's possible, but we didn't start here and you don't have to either. So how do you start finding your own opportunities? I'm going to hand it over to Eugene to walk you through it.
Perfect. Hey, thanks, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third act. If this webinar were a movie, I'm the part where the plot advances. So buckle up. We're about to get into the details, and the most important part, overcoming inertia and start moving. All right, we talked about the big picture, the tractor analogy, and the mountain of height. Now we get to the most important question. How do we actually get started? This is where we cut through all that noise. My only goal over the next 10 minutes is to give you a simple, practical path to begin your AI journey. No jargon, no nonsense, just a clear roadmap. So let's role play a little bit, then and now. As Mike mentioned earlier, on the left, we have our first iteration of the tractor. To the right, probably all what we think about today, modern John Deere. Some of these, even today, they drive on their own. If you've ever seen those, they're almost like driverless Teslas or Waymo. They work on navigation maps. They go out on their own. This is how far we've come in this one analogy alone. So let's actually think about this. Come back with me for a minute. It's 1995. Business leaders, smart people, we're seriously asking the question on the slide, should our business get a website? I know that sounds funny today, but back then it was a real debate. It's filled with uncertainty. Many companies decided to wait and see if this internet thing was going to stick around. And we all know what kind of happened with that. AI is in the same fundamental shift. This isn't just another software update. It's a new foundation for how business will operate.
I love your Netscape picture. I'm old enough to remember Netscape.
Oh, sorry, let me go back to the previous slide. Yeah, where you had to buy it in the store for $50, I remember,
Yeah.
before IE give it away for free.
And I'm telling you, those 8-bit graphics, man, they were the bomb.
True enough. So let's actually show that continued progression today. So today, as you probably understand on the left-hand side, this is what you're probably thinking about an AI assistant. You ask it a question, gives you a response. It's pretty much its primary use for most isolated tasks today, but that's kind of like looking at that Netscape picture that we had from 1995 and only seeing a digital brochure. Future's moving towards AI that acts as a central nervous system for all of your businesses. It's going to be integral in every function, from your supply chain to customer engagement. This isn't far off fantasy. This is inevitable evolution of this technology, and it's actually occurring today. It's not 2045 at a lot of businesses that you know already. But let's look at that future state. The business nervous system, as I call it, can feel incredibly daunting from where we stand today. And that feeling, that gap between hype and reality, is what leads so many smart leaders into a place of real frustration in action. Let me advance the slide. Thank you. All right, so let's break this down. So how do we fight that inertia? By forgetting the hype and embracing a simple, proven process. We're going to crawl, walk, and run. You don't just wake up, start running a marathon. The biggest mistake companies are making right now is not trying to sprint into direct, complex AI projects before they learn to crawl. But not crawling is a strategic blunder. So for the rest of our time today, we're going to focus 100% on the first most critical stage, how to crawl effectively. Let's start with step one. It's the least glamorous, but it's the absolute foundation.
Hey, I love
Absolute
data.
foundation for everything else. Let's get your data in order. Let's say your data, your emails, your Teams chats, your shared files, your OneDrive document, your documented processes, the things that makes your company unique and stand out and differentiate from others. That's the fuel for your AI. Without clean fuel, the engine's going to sputter and fail.
So you're telling me we shouldn't just randomly put AI in without checking anything at all?
Absolutely correct. You should actually watch where it's at, where it's governed, your access. And hey, you're leading me a little bit to my slide here, Stephen. But I absolutely love the quote in the lower right-hand corner. You wouldn't go and ask for a loan with a messy checkbook. Don't ask AI to perform miracles with messy data. This is the single most important thing that you could do right now if you've not started yet. Endsight, and our resident security expert, the interject Stephen, he's held several webinars on how to get your data ready and, more importantly, secure. If you don't know where to start it, reach out to us. We'll get you there. Let's move on to the next step. All right, so the next one, let's start with this. Crawl step number 2. You must resist the urge to try 10 different AI tools. I promise you, it's a recipe for disaster, failure, confusion. Think of it like an instrument. A drummer picks up the guitar faster because they already understand rhythm, structure, and the discipline of practice. You need to master one foundational AI tool, learn its personality, its strengths, and what limits it may have. But this is a critical point. Do not let your team use personal accounts with company data. You must set up a secure corporate account from a tool that you all select. This is non-negotiable. Let's dive into that a little bit deeper before we get to the next step. So why is a corporate account non-negotiable? As we've covered before, and we've harped on, why is this so critical? Well, let's start with 3 major reasons. Security. Your data is partitioned and kept safe, as Brian has mentioned, and Stephen has said several times on most of our webinars. Keep your information partitioned and safe. Privacy. This ensures that the AI models are not trained on your proprietary information. If somebody takes your information and goes out to their own private GPT with a web browser, they may not have the certain permissions, controls, and they're actually allowing AI and some of those sources to use your data to train their models. Last, this is a magical key, integration. A corporate account unlocks the AI's ability to connect to Teams chats, your Outlook, your SharePoint files, your OneDrive, all the places where you actually get work done. So if every individual department goes out and starts choosing their own tools, at some point, they're going to want to start talking to each other. So if everyone starts fragmenting it and putting it into different places, you're setting yourself up later for how to actually have these things talk to each other later.
I want to throw a quick interjection in on this particular slide. So we talk about this and we tell you that, you should get an enterprise account. You should only be putting proprietary data into corporate accounts. And for most of you guys who are managers or who have teams that work underneath you, you've probably already thrown this information out at your team. Hey, don't put our proprietary data in your personal account. The reality of that is that people are going to go play with AI. And if we don't give them the tools with which to safely play with AI, they're going to go do it on their own. I am a manager and I've experienced this with my team. So we harp on this corporate accounting or a business license for the account and this partitioning of data that keeps your data inside your tenant while still allowing people to safely play and explore and build and learn. It's a critical piece, and it's hard to identify exactly where you are and are not putting data out into. Like Copilot has some little flags that you can see in it. GPT has some as well. But this is one of the reasons that we jump up and down on this so much is people are going to be people. They're going to play, and we want them to explore and feel safe doing so. But we need to give them the tools, the right tools, in which to do it.
It's a good point, Michelle. I read some statistics recently that something like 70 to 80% of employees are currently using AI to do some components of their work. And so it's just a number to reflect on. If 2/3 or 3/4 of the employees at an average company are using tools, the question that you should ask yourself, are those tools that we've provided, are they potentially leaking IP?
Those 80% are all with a different firm, though, not with anybody's.
They're not with Endsight, certainly. No.
Well, we used to have this problem where, I know it sounds ridiculous now, where when we had a client without a Wi-Fi, like people would plug their own Wi-Fi access point into the Ethernet so that they could get Wi-Fi, corporate Wi-Fi in the office, because the corporation wasn't forward looking enough to install secure Wi-Fi. So this problem of, let's say, technology leakage is also old. Like, nothing's new under the sun. Like, if you don't provide a corporate governed solution, then what you're basically creating the space for somebody to kind of come in and just do whatever they want to do.
I looked at Steven's face just now, and I think we stole his thunder.
Bad.
Oh, well.
Let me thank you, everyone, for your input. I couldn't agree more. Let's actually move to step number 3. So once you have a tool, you need to get your team to use it. The goal is to make it a daily habit. Let's talk about making it fun. So we all know there's some people resistant to change. They don't know how to get started. They may be a little embarrassed. They don't want to ask. They're quick to say, this doesn't work, or the AI is broken. So let's actually start some steps to get people comfortable using this new tool. One of the things we would suggest, let's gamify it. Sponsor a best team image contest, give away some gift cards. You can see in the picture here, ChatGPT went down, I think it was November 18th. We had our internal channel flooded with people making funny posts. This was the development department I had done. You can see the catastrophic issues happening in the background. The Judgment Day from Terminator, and of course it's saying, hey, Skynet really didn't start this way. But learning how to create prompts, give it people, pictures, what you want it to do, iterating, this helps your team actually start to learn to interact with the tool. Stay tuned for that. Share knowledge. Once you've found a good prompt that works for you, that's great. Share it. Company-wide, there's a way to share this, specifically in Microsoft and some other places, by sharing a prompt library. You found something that works for you, and you think it would your colleagues, and you've iterated it and you've made it better, you can actually share that with them. And we'll show an example of that a little bit later. One of the next steps, empower pioneers. Each one of you should probably establish a small pioneer group of curious people to lead the charge and share what they have learned with everyone else. Establish a policy. We all know there's a corporate use policy, what the company should be using. If your HR department hasn't done this along when they're picking a tool, this is the time to do it. All right, final crawl step. This is what I like to call machine learning. So most people talk to AI like it's a person. That's a fundamental mistake. These tools don't understand you. The way that they are set up is they predict the most likely words based on probability. Without getting into the technical jargon, we all know that a vague prompt forces a vague prediction. So on the left, we could just say, write a marketing email. The result, generic, unusable garbage, really. AI is just guessing here. It doesn't know. You didn't give it enough context. But let's actually look to the right. This is a simple idea that I recommend everyone use and start to train their staff on. So this framework is called AIM. And let's cover what exactly that is. A, as an actor. We've talked about this in some of the prior webinars. Give it a persona. Tell it as an expert in doing what you're telling it to do. I, give it input. What's the necessary context you want it to do? A little bit of background of what you want it to analyze and what you want it to go through. And then the last part, give it a mission. Tell it exactly what you're asking it to do. Give it a personality. You even see here that create a short, punchy email, inviting people to a webinar like today's. So the result isn't just better, It's actually usable. This simple shift in a communication is the difference between wasting your time and saving it. We've all probably used ChatGPT. How many of us have probably gone through, started a prompt, and then all of a sudden got a result back? It wasn't that good. And then you followed up with another question and you made it a little bit better. And that 50% that you started went to a 60, 70, 80, 90, until you finally get where you're at. Stop for one moment. When you're satisfied with what you had, go back to the bottom. Type something in that just says, show me how I could write this prompt the first time without all of these iterations. And it'll show you a prompt that will help train you for what you were trying to get there. So you're learning the way to interact with it. So those are powerful lessons. You could also tell it to play devil's advocate. Find items and issues you did not consider. Let it review those, integrate those. Lots of tools for that.
Your save the prompt one, or give me a better prompt one. I have a follow-on activity that, and that is take that prompt and save it to your shared prompts library, wherever you're sharing it at.
You can also prompt it to ask you questions. Say, ask me one or two questions to give me the best possible response, and it'll do that too. Very valuable.
Yep, I agree. So let's show you what a real life crawl is here at Endsight. It's not as advanced as Brian's. Brian actually has the agentic agents running, but asking your company, how do we get our people started? So this is a perfect example. Let's actually take a peek. So at the top, you can see a prompt that I put together, and it's really simple. This is done in Copilot, so you're actually allowed to select people, and it gives it context to go search emails, Teams chats, OneDrives, interactions, recordings with that person, which is why it's important to pick your tool connected to your data. But in this simple prompt, I asked, hey, I'm heading into my one-on-one meeting with Michelle. Show me the stack ranked 5 most likely things that come up in this meeting that we should discuss. So we've all prepared for a meeting, or you're late, or you're going from one meeting to another. Not only did this work, it worked so well, I shared it with the team, and the team could even schedule it to occur and send you an email or an update or a Teams message with this information and the citations to it 30 minutes before your meeting starts. So how about that for a real life time saver as far as putting something together really quickly for a real crawl for real ROI. It's these small wins that build a foundation for everything else that comes next. So we're not going to get too much into walking or running today. We've covered a lot of those. Let's go over the small wins, but they prepare your organization for what's coming tomorrow. Crawling puts you on the right path. It builds skills, it cleans the data, and you'll eventually be able to walk. Think of your department running a department-specific process. That leads to then running, building that custom agentic agent of how to transform how your company operates. And my final slide for the day. For those of you ready to move beyond this next step, here's a simple 4-point plan of where to start your journey, starting as soon as next week. So assume you've selected a tool. And for most of those out here that haven't, and your Microsoft clients, we cannot recommend enough using Copilot as our recommended choice without blinking. Is securely integrate your systems into the tools you use today, your data. Oh, sorry. Let me go back a slide. I think it advanced inadvertently. All right. If those that didn't know, Copilot is nothing more than ChatGPT under the covers. They actually use the same technology licensed by OpenAI today, even though they are allowed you to go into other models in the future, including Claude and some others. So don't think Copilot is actually different than ChatGPT. As a matter of fact, when new models are released, actually in Microsoft about 3 weeks later, it's just seen as Copilot. So let's actually go to your next steps. First, let's assemble your pioneers. 2 to 3 curious, open-minded people to be your AI exploration team. Second, find your pain. What's one repetitive, low value, high frustration task you do every day? That's your crawl. An example of my pain, I hate doing technical documentation. I hate doing Visio maps, but they're all critical for software development lifecycle. So I created an AI tool to do it for me. I basically hand it source files, it analyzes them, logs them, compares them to the last version, and then emails me a set of results in a standardized format that I want to see, human in the loop for responsible AI, for then me to review and punch up. So what used to take me several hours that I would have to bill you for as a client, it's now done in minutes. Third, start prompting. Use that AIM framework that I told you about. Start learning how to do that in that method, and I promise you'll get much better results. And start training your teams to use it. Finally, consider a guide. We all know consultants today can actually save you time. So then going through that path with someone that has walked it already can help you from stumbling on your own. So with some more ideas about that, let me transition back to Mike.
Okay, thanks, Eugene. Jay, are you going to advance the slide deck?
Yeah, just trying to keep on top of stuff. I saw your note before we move on to Peter. You want to try to bring him in here? We hardly ever get hand raises. We should maybe let him ask.
Okay, we got a couple of hand raises too.
All right, let's do this instead. Mike,
we got a Q&A section, right?
We'll get to the Q. Yeah, and it's coming right up. So go ahead, Mike. Guys, we'll bring everybody in a couple of slides here.
Very excited to make this a little bit more interactive. So try to get through this. I feel super convicted that everybody is going to implement AI. Like, to me, that part's inevitable. That would be like saying everybody is going to have broadband internet. Like we're living in a world where I don't think it's going to be possible to hide from this, or to be reasonably competitive while still using horses to plow your fields. Like, I think that part's inevitable. The open questions is, when are you going to start implementing these tools, and how? And I think there's this open-ended question that we've been kind of addressing, which is, do you need a guide, or is this going to be possible to do it yourself? And is that the best strategy? So, okay. So at Endsight, we have, our ethos, our legacy comes from the technology integration. And basically what that means is that it's been our channel. It's been the IT services channel who helped customers implement broadband internet, implement itemal platforms, implement the first security products like firewalls, implement wireless networks, all these things all the way up. And AI is just the next iteration of technology that our customers are going to demand that we help them integrate to make business value. And as you know, our ethos is to help others thrive. And one of our core tenets of our principles is to help is to put customer value at the North Star pinnacle of what we're trying to do. But so we knew that we were going to have to help customers implement AI. Like that, we as soon as we saw it, we knew that was going to be kind of our job in the world. But I think that there's 4 reasons why Endsight is incredibly well suited to help customers, to help our customers, and even the marketplace in general do this. And one is that we have a massive service ethos at Endsight. And, if you saw our 4 core values, you saw one of them was servant's heart, and you could talk about what that means. But we do service as well as any of our peers, in fact, quite better than the vast majority of our peers in the industry. And I think that's going to be so mission critical as you start moving your teams to AI. They're going to have questions about AI, and they're going to need a very responsive help desk. And as you move agentic workflow and it's not working, it's going to be so important that your service provider and infrastructure has mastered response times and response and technical competency. And I think we have that part nailed. And 2, we have deep technical literacy. So we have a team of people who love technology and want to learn it and want to get certified and want to go to the conferences and want to be experts and scour the internet and play with things until they become massively expert at it. And that's part of our ethos, and we've got it. And I think it's possible, by the way, that some of our competitors out in the marketplace might have those 2 things. But there's 2 other things that I think are maybe not uniquely in Endsight, but rare for an IT managed services company. And I don't remember, maybe Michelle can remind me. We launched a data intelligence practice with her more than 10 years ago. And we've been building that practice, and we've been implementing data intelligence both at Endsight and for our customers for more than a decade now. And we've gotten quite competent and quite expert at this. And most of our competitors in the marketplace have not done this. And the thing about when you get, it won't be so important for the crawl, but when you get to the walking and running stage, these AI systems need secure access to consolidated data. And many of the marketplace have systems all over and data everywhere, and it's going to be very difficult for a human, much less an AI, to execute a good job when it doesn't have the right information sources and it doesn't know where to write the right information sources. And the
Or when
fourth
their
one is
information sources aren't talking to each other.
And yeah, exactly. And the fourth one is something we don't talk a lot about externally, but back in I want to say it was 2016, my co-founder and I launched an initiative at Endsight on what's called in a bucket, a total quality management. And we went really deep into a business philosophical space called lean. We started reading all these lean books. We started going to lean conferences. We hired lean consultants. We had one of our managers pick up the book called Work Clean and read it 4 times in a single summer. And that's brought a whole bunch of process-oriented stuff to Endsight. We have things like problem registers. We have concepts like making work visible. We have value stream managers. So basically, people who spend their whole career just managing the process of running a help desk. It's different than the help desk manager that manages the people. They manage all the help desks across all the 5 service pods at Endsight. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff there. Now, almost 10 years later, we actually have people. In fact, I presented at the Lean Global Conference. We have managers presenting at this year's conference, and we have a real process discipline and a workflow mapping and reduction of waste discipline that we've cultivated internally. And it's time for us to help our customers with those same tools and same philosophical principles, which marries perfect with the other 3 core tenets that allow us to be, I think, very well suited to help our customers implement the technology of AI. So in short, I really feel like we're built for this moment, and I feel like it's very exciting service. And we've been spending the last year working on it internally, and now we're actually ready to offer a service to the marketplace. And maybe Jay, you could take to our next slide. Now, the challenge with this, and we just want to be like super transparent. The number of customer entities out there that need help with AI is just massive. It's basically every single company in the planet. Now, the large, let's say the medium size and large enterprise customers, they're probably going to work with a BCG, Boston Consulting Group, or the McKinsey, the big giant consulting firms. But in the SMB, there's not a lot of people who are doing this or doing it well. So there's this upside down marketplace where there's not a lot of competent people who can do this, and there's a huge demand for it. Even us, the number of people that we have that we're super comfortable, having a billable engagement is very small. And so we're offering to this quarter, we're going to be taking on somewhat 10 to 15 companies that want to officially have us be their guide. And the crawl step would be, it's kind of like a training service that we did internally that worked really, really well, where we bring the LLM to your team and we show them how to use it. We show them we help them discover work cases where it's going to work really well. We help them troubleshoot when it's not working well. We provide a forum for them to come together and share their learnings. And then we expand that circle. We have a home place, a meeting place where we can bring what's happening with the newest models. And we could talk about things like, what are the differences of the models? What model should they be using, and so on and so forth. And there's actually quite a bit to learn. It's actually not as simple as just prompting or even getting good at prompting. There's plenty of places for us to value add and troubleshoot and guide and teach and coach your users. Brian, when we launched this idea, he came to me and said, "Hey, I want to buy a corporate open AI platform for all of our users." And it wasn't free, it was a significant investment. I think it was $20 per user to get everybody on. And we have, 150-ish people. So we looked at it, was like, that's a big steep price tag. But we knew for $20 a month, it wasn't that much in terms of their payroll and how much time they could save using these LLMs properly if they had the right guidance. And so we said, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to take the leap. We're going to get the corporate edition like we're recommending to our customers. And then we started doing, peer groups and consulting groups and training groups, and it's worked out incredibly well. And now it's time for us to take that to the marketplace and help them. Now we know that we probably have we have something like 400 customer entities, and they're all going to need this. And we are going to scale this service offering over time. And there's some kind of risk to being the leading edge. If you're going to be the first 10 to 15 customers, we're not going to have done this for 10 years yet. You're going to be our first 10, 15 customers, but you are going to be working with some of our very, very best people like Brian Tirado, who are going to help guide your organization and build some of the workflow on this. And you're also going to start crawling early, getting value from these tools early, and then being able to walk earlier. And then you'll be well positioned to run earlier and finally, have that picture that Eugene painted. So we're looking for 10 to 15. We're going to be looking for 10 to 15 customers over the next quarter, and then we're going to be stacking on more and more customers in the successive quarters as we build out and polish this service. Jay, take us to the next slide.
Yeah, take us to the next slide. So how do we get started, Mike?
Yeah. Were you going to present to this, or did you want me to?
Why don't I just take it? So, So we're really excited about this offering. We're popping a survey for you right now, and the path is pretty simple. If you want to just raise your hand and say, "Yeah, I'd like to talk to you guys about this right now," we'll follow up with you to set up some time. We'll start talking about which LLM's the right one, clarifying your goals, beginning down that the planning stage here. And we'll select a model and put together a deployment plan. And then the third step will be actually moving into deployment and training. And so a pretty clear path to getting started. And yeah, thank you for folks that are putting things in right now. And I want to really point out, thank you to the people that are putting in, no, I don't think this fits. I think I might need something different. We really be grateful if there's something else coming to mind. This is so new. There'll be another place where you can put a free form. Just maybe type something in, or reach out to me specifically, or reach out to your technical account manager. We'd really like to get that feedback. With that, we're going to move into our Q&A. And Michelle, I hope you've been monitoring things, because I've been maybe you can help us here with our first question. And I know we've got some hand raises still too.
We did have one. It got put down. I'm not really sure what happened to that one, aside from Peter, who said he put his hand up by mistake. But did have a couple of questions. Like David had asked whether or not, can we use Copilot and Outlook to find archived emails? I did answer this in chat, but yes, absolutely. Especially with context to, tell Copilot where exactly you want to search. Don't be afraid to iterate. And tell it, more than once that, limit your search to the archived email. But certainly Copilot should be able to find emails in your archived mailbox. Let's see what else. We've got a couple suggestions on future trainings. Again, from David, about seeing some high value functioning that Copilot can do in each of the most heavily used Office apps for Outlook Teams. That's something we can take away to kind of focus on down the road for future sessions. We got one from JJ McKenna that, what is the barrier to running a local copy of an AI model? They have a Whisper bot running for transcription. And Brian, I think you're familiar with Whisper.
Yeah, so Whisper's wonderful. If people don't know what Whisper is, it will take kind of this verbal utterances that I'm making right now, and it will convert that to text. And so you send the WAV file, you send the recording over to Whisper, that converts it to text. And then when you have text, you can use that with a large language model. This would be in the absence of a multimodal model that can already understand some of that audio. So we use it here internally for what it's worth, because sometimes an example makes a lot of sense. We have a system when somebody leaves a voicemail that doesn't automatically transcribe that voicemail. So what we do is we pick that voicemail up as soon as it comes in, and we have a Whisper equivalent model transcribe that and then put it back into the ticket so that we don't have to have engineers listening to the audio necessarily. So running things locally, it can be tricky. So a lot of new MacBook Pros have the horsepower, if you spec them highly, to run. I think it's LM Studio. There's a couple of other variants also, and you can get open source models. The problem is then you manage all of that complexity versus counting on a cloud provider to manage that complexity for you. And oftentimes those open source models are going to be behind the frontier models. So the intelligence you get from like an open AI API for Whisper will be different than you would get locally.
If I could just add a couple things on here. One of the points of having a guide is just to help with ideation, in terms of how and where an LLM fits. My wife works for, she works on the Alamo, California Municipal Advisory Council, which is like the city council for a non-incorporated city. And the act of preparing the notes from the meetings and then the annual report to the citizens is like a giant uplift. And this is like a completely solved problem with a device using Whisper. You just put it in, and AI is like way better than a human at doing this. And it does it in automation. It can save tons of hours. And it's just like a turnkey solution. Another example of something like that that we experienced at Endsight is we do offsite planning annually, and it's like a 3-day offsite with a whole bunch of strategic conversations and I mean, it's just a lot of stuff. And it used to be the case that we'd go and have that planning, then we have to come back and figure out how to assign, distill all the different discussions that we've had and make it. With AI, we recorded literally 3 days of discussion. When we came back, like it not only distilled all that discussion down to the relevant stuff, but it actually offered like compromises and like new ideas to like, bridge the gap of points of differences that were really good. And it saves so much time coming back. And there's hundreds or thousands of ways to just insert the LLM into what you're already doing, like what Eugene talked about. And if you have a central place of people who are using this in the discussion area, your people are even going to have great ideas on how to use the LLM inside your business. And if they just have a home to share those, that could just be a huge win as well. And so that's kind of the goal of this is to just like, hey, let's learn these tools better. Let's keep abreast of how they work and how to best use them, what use cases work, what use cases aren't working right now. When that changes, there's a place where you can go to find that stuff out. And so the vision for this is the crawl is just like, hey, where can this LLM kind of fit quite natively and solve problems for you right now for your users? Give them a bicycle instead of just walking so that they can just move a little quicker with the stuff that they do right now, and eventually get to that more walking and running where we get to the agentic workflow. And that stuff's coming, and that stuff's really exciting. And hopefully you can see how we're doing that, so you have a vision for that. But the quickest win is clearly just to teach people how to use these LLMs better and to point them at the right use cases.
Okay, we're getting close to time here, and I think we got a couple other slides. There's two things I want to mention, and then Jason, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Okay.
Somebody asked about outside cloud storages. Talk to us about connectors. Alan, I'm looking at you. So give me a call and let me know about that connector thing. And somebody else asked about performance metrics. I believe that's Molly. Molly, we've had a couple conversations going. We should touch base outside of this meeting to talk about how that monitoring works.
Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate that. And we are over, and folks, we'll try to capture as many of these questions as we can and get written answers out like we've always been doing. Couple of things we hope you'll keep in mind for the future. Our next office hours is going to be March 5th at 1 o'clock. If you'd like to register, I think we're popping a survey right now. Go ahead and just say yes. Sign me up for all sessions or just this one. Also, you are not going to want to miss our good friend here,
Well.
Stephen Hicks, right? He's going to have his cybersecurity office hours will be January 29th. I know, Stephen, there's something you're going to want to talk about specifically in this one. You want to just share a quick teaser?
Y'all want to see what happens when we get a breach? Do you want to see the inside scoop of what's going on when we see something bad happen? Join me. I'll show you.
Right. Right. Specifically, you'll be showing a flavor of this where the user's connected to Copilot. Yeah.
We're going to try to. If we can get it done in time, we're going to try to. But at least we're
Okay.
going to show everybody how a breach works when we get from when we get the detection all the way through to completion, what the background processes look like. It'll be fascinating for nerds like me.
That's
Yes,
JJ, I'm
appreciate
looking at
it.
you.
All right. With that, folks, we really appreciate you carving out time. Thank you so much. We hope you found this valuable. If anyone wants to reach out directly to their technical account manager and start conversations, feel free to do that, or reach out to anybody on this panel. We are eager to engage with you. All right, everybody.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Much appreciated. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. All right.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Well,
Bye, team.
I'll let you, the panelists, if you guys want to keep moving, I'll stick around here just a little bit, just in case there's something that pops up. But thanks, everybody. You did great. Well done. Great session. We're winding down here. I can see there's only a handful of folks still left. We got like 11 attendees left. I'm going to let it wind down just a bit. If there's something you need, by all means, just pop a quick note in the chat there. All right, I'm going to sign off here. Just thanks again, everybody. I hope you have a very happy holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you in future sessions.